Good morning and good evening, everyone. So, welcome to Dynamics 5 Global Community webinar series. So, today is the 18th episode of Expert Connect session from DGC. So, let me talk a little bit about DGC here. So, we started DGC back in December 2018 with the intention of building a stronger community for Dynamics 5 consultant, professionals, as well as customers who are using Dynamics 5. And we have been conducting webinars as well as discussion sessions since then. In fact, we are doing it very religiously on second and fourth Wednesday of every month. And we have conducted a lot of webinar series, very interesting topic, I would say. We have conducted webinars on topics like Dynamics 5 portals, security on Dynamics 5, integration of Dynamics 5 with various tools like using various tools like Scribe, then King's Soft, etc. And we also had multiple sessions on Microsoft Power Platform, specifically on Flow, then Power Apps. In fact, our last session was conducted by Sudip, and we also have conducted multiple sessions comparing Dynamics 5 and Salesforce. So let me talk about tonight's webinar. So today's a discussion session, and we have a panel here. First of all, we have Sudip. He's a Dynamics 5 solution expert based out of US. Then we have Sandeep Kolaraveetil. He is a Dynamics 5 technical architect based out of Toronto, Canada. And then we have Suresh Panchal. He's a Dynamics 5 as well as a Salesforce architect. He is an architect on both these technologies. And myself, Firoz Muhammed. I'm a Dynamics CRM consultant as well as a corporate trainer. All right, so we have been conducting webinars and discussion session like this. So tonight or today we have this discussion section. So where we have the topic of Microsoft Dynamics 365 as well as a Power Platform for business. So we'll be talking about what are the advantages or what are the benefit when you're using Microsoft Power Platform for business. So that's a topic for today's webinar. So I request everyone to please mute your lines. So like I mentioned, so this is the panel that we have. So I just give an introduction about everyone. And our topic is Microsoft Power Platform for business. So we heard a lot about Microsoft Power Platform as well as the application in that. In fact, we had multiple sessions on that. So without further ado, let me just get started with the discussion. So before that, let me give a few housekeeping tips. First of all, I request everyone to please mute your lines except the panelists. And the session will be of duration 45 minutes, where we'll have a discussion for 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes, and we'll have a Q&A after that for 15 minutes. And I request once again to everyone to mute your lines. And if you have any question, we can just put that in the chat. We will take that up. And also, towards the end of the session, during the Q&A, you can open up your mic and you can ask your questions. Cool. So let's get started. So we have a Microsoft platform, Microsoft Power Platform for quite some time. And as part of Microsoft Power Platform, we have three applications majorly like Microsoft Power Apps, Power BI, as well as Flow. So Microsoft launched each of these applications at different point in time, not all this together. And they started calling these three applications together as Microsoft Power Platform very recently. We know that Power Apps are there in the market for like close to 2 years. Even Power BI is there in the market for quite some time. Out of Power Platform, Flow is the latest addition to this group, and now they are calling it as Microsoft Power Platform. So if you are coming from Dynamics 365 background, you know that Microsoft Power Platform is an addition to Dynamics 365. It can be worked with many other application and platform, not just Dynamics 5. But when you just talking about Microsoft Power Platform along with Dynamics 5, then it's become very interesting as well as it has a lot of features. It is futuristic, right? So as you know that there are three applications in this particular platform, and we'll be talking about all of this, including CTS. And then, in fact, we had a session on AI Builder presented by Sudip in the last session. So we'll be talking about all that. So we have the panel who are all expert here. So yeah, so let's get into the topic.
Yeah. Do you want me to start, Firoz?
Sure, Sid. So yeah, let me start with Sudip first. So Sudip has in fact worked on some product where they have utilized Dynamics 5, AI Builder, as well as Power Apps with Flow. So let me ask you, Sudip. So what is your experience in terms of developing a couple of applications using Microsoft Platform? How was your experience overall?
Yeah, so I have developed a couple of Power Platform applications, and I really like them. And since just to give a background, the Power Platform is basically the collective term for three Microsoft products, as Firoz mentioned, which is Power BI, Power Apps, and the Flow. And the I think in October month they have added one more product. It's called the Portals. Now the Portals for Dynamics 365 is now renamed and has joined the Power Platform family, and that is called Power Apps Portal. So in total of if I have to just focus on the Power Platform and just talking about the Power Apps. So in the Power Apps we have now we have majorly four main components. One is basically Canvas apps, and then model driven apps, and then the portals, and the common data service. And I'll be talking about the Canvas apps, model driven apps, and the common data service. You know how why to use Canvas apps, when to use the model driven apps, and what is common data service. So before I start, just to give you an idea that Power Platform is basically the underlying data platform is basically common data service. That is the heart of the Power Platform. And we using the Microsoft Power Platform basically brings all the data together in a common data model, which allows the citizen developers, which Microsoft says now, which is basically um, not a very technical people. They are like business analysts or something, so they can basically quickly develop the apps without use of without having the development skills. And they can create standard business apps with point and click approach. And mostly they try to build the mobile friendly apps, and then they can connect to the to different databases without having the integration technology, because that is where the data connectors comes in. And they can then after they create the app, they connect with the data, they can actually really see they can measure the data, and they can also have the Power BI to see how the business is working, whatever they are trying to basically see. So the best part is that they don't have to be a hardcore developer to do this. And now, as I said, that Power Apps has four major components. One is the Canvas apps and model-driven apps. So Canvas apps is basically uh, it's been around with Power Apps. I think it's been roughly 2 years already that Canvas apps is out with Power Apps. And basically, this is nothing. You can design custom apps by dragging and dropping the elements into a canvas, just like an artist basically um, uh, design design a picture, or paint a picture, something like that. So you have the same kind of experience that by dragging and dropping the elements, like we do in the CRM or the Dynamics 365 customer engagement, where basically when we try to design a form, we just drag and drop the fields, and we just select the fields, and then we can drag and change the field location or something like that. So that kind of experience you'll have. And so basically for Canvas apps, it does not have to have the common data service, because it basically you can connect to any kind of data and have the app calling that data and show that in the application. And it can pull multiple data sources together into one app. So for example, data from the SharePoint list, or data from 365, or from legacy SQL databases, or from Office 365, and many more data points can be combined together into one user interface. And it is totally completely custom UI. Means you are the one. When I say you, means the developer is the one who is basically controlling the the UI, and you are
Mhm.
responsible to provide a user friendly application or mobile first application for you and for your users. And because you are controlling it, so you have more flexibility for the development and the functions and the control. um, but one thing you have to keep in mind when you are creating a Canvas app, you need to already have a data source created, or to build the app or the framework for your app. And for the mm, uh, for the model driven app, the model driven app, the idea is basically your data. It's basically data first design. It means that for the model driven app, you really don't need coding. It's all like Dynamics 365, so it works on the database. It cannot work without the common data service. So it's that's why it is called data first design.
Okay.
And you can make very simple to very complex applications. And since you are familiar with Dynamics 365 and you are working, so you are actually working with the model driven apps. You may not have realized it, but that is what it is. That is what it is.
Yeah,
Because the
that's an interesting point
yeah
you brought up. So we do have model-driven apps and Canvas apps. So Canvas app is a similar thing. And what we notice is when you're developing any application for Dynamics 5, and if you go to Power Platform, you'll be able to see that these existing apps like Dynamics 5 for sales, customer service are already part of Power Platform as model-driven apps. So from your experience, when you have developed this application, so how you have seen that? Like, I mean, how different that one, or I mean,
Yeah,
you see
so
the
so
yeah.
yeah, right. So the when you so as I said, when model driven app, you need the data first. So basically, you have to you have to create the CDS, means the common data service first.
Mhm.
And one organization can have only one CDS. You cannot have multiple. And what CDS is basically, it is basically the replica of your standard business entities that you have in Dynamics. They are also in the auto-populated in the, I mean, it is those entities are automatically populated in the CDS. And the best part is, if you change the data in the Dynamics, it will be changed in the Power Apps, means the CDS database also.
Mhm.
So so no matter where you change it, you will always have the synchronized data between this database and your Dynamics database. And
But there has, Sudip, Suresh here, there has to be some sort of interval, right? The data CDS will also do a data refresh in some cases. It won't be like real time, am I right? Let's say if I'm having 10 opportunities from other systems, and that we have connected with CDS, and that is getting used in one of the Power Apps data. So, does that mean that if I add one opportunity in the source end, so that will automatically come into or flow to Power Apps real time basis?
what I was saying, that I have not seen the lag because it's so fast that I could not find the lag, and I've not looked into that closely, whether it is if there is a service or like database triggers happening in the behind that basically copying the data from here to there. I've not seen that, but yeah, that's a good point. I can look into it.
Thanks, Sudip.
Yeah.
Good. So yeah,
There is a question I saw on chat. Somebody asked a question.
yeah. So we can take up the
Let me put.
question towards the end of the session.
Okay. All right.
Good. So we do have Suresh, and then Suresh is primarily a Salesforce plus Dynamics 5 expert. So Suresh, in terms of Power BI, okay. So you have used Power BI in your project next. So how you see Power BI? How powerful is Power BI? And then
Yeah.
how you're seeing the future of that in terms of Dynamics 365?
Thanks, Firoz, for this wonderful question. I see Power BI is not something as a replacement of SSRS at present. This is
Mhm.
like a complementary to SSRS. So whereas mostly, uh, even not only with this technology, but other technologies are also in other areas also, like companies are spending more in the cloud area. For example, like Scribe Insight is there. We have Scribe Online, but when I connected with the Scribe team, they said that mostly they will be focusing more on the cloud area, that is Scribe Online. So new enhancement you'll see on Scribe Insight. Same thing with Power BI as well. So Microsoft is investing a lot on this cloud platforms, as Sudip wonderfully mentioned about the whole bouquet of these Power platform apps. which can be used very natively with Microsoft Dynamics 365. That is where Microsoft is having upper edge over other CRM technologies. So where what I see at present is it can be act as a complementary, wherein if we want to use any dashboards or on our cloud related platform, it is very easy to create in Power BI rather than going into SSRS, as SSRS is mostly on the on-premise based application, and it works like on the legacy technologies also, like data sets and all that.
Yeah.
But it has its own usage, whereas Power BI will be more in the cloud front. One example, one use case I would like to present. Present means I would like to tell, which can, I mean, by that use case, we can understand how well this Power BI tool can be leveraged in any of our future Dynamics 365 application.
Yeah.
So the use case that I'm going to give you, or I'm going to tell, maybe in some upcoming sessions, I might show you in detail about how things are working.
Mhm.
So in Salesforce, let's say Salesforce, how I mean many of the clients, they are using either Salesforce or Dynamics 365. In some cases, there are both these tools are used for their own advantages. Few companies are there who are using both these applications, Salesforce as well as Dynamics 365. So one advantage which we can as a technical expert we can present is, let's say if we have some reports in Salesforce, which we have, which gives us some opportunity or some accounting match and mismatches kind of thing. That sort of report uh, we have it in Salesforce, and let's say Salesforce application is being used for storing that sort of data, and now CRM is being used for, let's say, prospect management. So if you want some integration between these two applications, and you want to come up with a dashboard, so that
Mhm.
can be easily done by using Power BI. So let's say you have a report in the data flow, you can just directly share from
Mhm.
Power BI. You can share the data flow from Salesforce, and that can be integrated with the reports with the reports or dashboards that
Mhm.
you are creating in Salesforce, sorry, in Power BI.
Mhm.
And then once your final dashboard is ready, wherein you have integrated both data source from one from Salesforce, one from Dynamics
Mhm.
365, and then that can be shared, like in your dashboard in Dynamics 365. So that is one use case which
Cool,
I
Suresh.
wanted to.
Yeah, I do have a
Mhm.
question there. So since you have worked with both Salesforce and Dynamics 5, and you talk about NGT Analytics, right, in few session also. So when you're directly comparing Power BI with NGT Analytics, what are the good
Yeah,
and bads, I mean, of Power BI? How you see that?
yeah. As I see, um, where I mean Salesforce, what I have seen is Salesforce is like focusing more on the
Mm-hmm.
process side. Let's
Okay.
say, then like as in one of the session which I have covered, the Einstein Analytics, which is there, it has all the other AI. Similarly, if we want to use AI feature, Microsoft also has a strong AI capability which can be leveraged. But just for an example purpose, what the Power BI, one thing which has upper edge on in Einstein Analytics was that from the dashboard that is
Mm-hmm.
explicitly for for Salesforce, they have focused. But when it comes to Power BI or Microsoft platform, they are more to not Dynamics 365 specific. It can be used with other applications as well. So that's where
Correct. Mhm.
the major difference I see. And like when it comes to Salesforce, so they can, like in the dashboards, from dashboards itself, you can create, you can create your own some action items from dashboards in Salesforce using Einstein Analytics. That was one point wherein I saw
Mhm.
Salesforce has upper hand. But
Mhm.
why Salesforce? I mean, other advantage from the Microsoft Power BI platform is it is more like open to different application.
Right.
Whereas whereas those specific usage are explicitly for Salesforce. Like they have made in such a way. I mean, maybe that might be their strategy, Salesforce strategy. But
Mhm.
when it comes to Microsoft Dynamics, or like as we are talking about Power BI or Microsoft Power Platform,
Right.
we see like it has more. I mean, there are other usage,
Yeah, you
but
rightly pointed that out because in Power BI can be used with Dynamics 365 F&O, Dynamics 365 customer engagement, and it can be used
correct,
as a standalone, BI environment as well. We can set up
correct,
notes
correct.
for
Hmm.
report and dashboard as
Hmm.
well. So
Hmm.
it is more
I
feature, I would say, than
Mhm.
because it is only limited to Salesforce when it's come to
Correct, correct,
analytics.
correct,
Here it is
correct.
available on many
Their
platforms.
strategy is like that, Firoz. I mean,
Mhm.
they are mostly, but the features that they are giving, it would be like very quick and easy to use when we are using their platform.
Yeah,
That's where I see. But maybe in future, like we can come up with some sessions wherein I can show the Salesforce as well as Dynamics 365 integration. So the whole purpose is we can come to know if there are some requirement of these sort of things, so we can leverage Power BI and suggest some good
yeah,
reporting tools, because
yeah.
like many of the companies have started using now Power BI. And as Sudip was mentioning, he has already worked on few of the applications, few of the projects which uses Power BI. So many of the companies are going towards Power BI. And I think to as a technical expert, like we should know these technologies that will really help us in delivering more advanced applications or solutions to our clients.
Cool.
So
And I would like to add one more thing with the Power BI.
yep,
So once we are on, let's say we want to display the Power BI report from multiple data sources into the Dynamics dashboard, right? So we have to basically write all the integration and everything. But you can have the multiple data sources and have the report created in the Power BI, and you can easily integrate within the Dynamics 365, and you don't have to worry about the security because it works. The security, the data security and other thing is basically working on the other apps, and depending on your security, you will be able to see those data. So that is one best part. Otherwise, if you have to create the data within the Dynamics, you are limited with the data which is available in the Dynamics or any other system, and you have to write all your integration code to bring all the data in the dashboard.
Yeah, correct. Cool. So while coming to Sandeep, so he's a Dynamics 5 architect. Okay. So Sandeep, when it's come to Microsoft Flow, so what do you think are the benefits of using Microsoft Flow with and without Dynamics 5? And also, what are the good and bads of Microsoft Power Platform? Can you please shed light on that?
Yeah, sure. So the Microsoft Flow is a cloud-based solution service basically that helps you to connect two or more apps or services. So the one of the
Mhm.
benefit is like you can synchronize files, get notifications, and collect data or more data, move data. So the flow is actually built on top of Azure Logic Apps. So
Mhm.
Logic Apps is like you can say is like a big brother of Microsoft Flow.
Mhm.
So they share the same workflow designer and the same connectors. So you can start with a flow, then at first, and then you can convert into the logic apps as complexity increases. So one of the benefit with flow is like we have a 200 connectors, which
Mm-hmm.
means we can connect to the lot bigger bigger. We can connect to the multiple systems,
Mm-hmm.
and we have around 400 plus templates available. So that means you don't need to really build the templates already available. You can just search and use it. So another thing is like the bad part is like at this moment the MS Flow is having only synchronous asynchronous options.
Mm-hmm.
So if you wanted to think about asynchronous, Microsoft Flow, then we have to wait and see what Microsoft is going to work on that. At this moment, we have only asynchronous option.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the things I think.
Cool. So I just want to ask you one question since you brought this up. So you talk about Azure Logic Apps and then Microsoft Flow, and then for complicated requirement we have to go back to Azure Logic App. So what is the reason for that? Is Flow is not reached the what is a position is supposed to be? I mean, that's the reason we have to use Azure Logic Apps also, because what I know about Logic Apps is like it is a basic for Flow, right? So that's how I understand that. So Flow is built on top of Azure Logic Apps. Am I right on that?
Yeah, so kind of, yeah, you're right. I mean, so basically the Flow is more like a business user or citizen developer friendly
Mm-hmm.
product.
Okay.
And so when you look at the Logic apps, it's more like a developer and IT pros. So both are used for automating the workflows. But if you wanted to do an advanced integration kind of sort of kind of solution, you have to go with the Logic apps. So Flow is more like it's a more like a CDS, an Office 365 kind of product.
Mm-hmm.
So which has a tight integration with the CDS, so it's a CDS friendly. But when you look at the Logic apps, it's an Azure-based service, right? So if you look at the history of the Logic apps, it's basically coming from the BizTalk service, right? BizTalk server, right? So so it's more like it's a broader thing, and we have the deployment and everything is actually sitting in the Visual Studio.
Mm-hmm.
But the Microsoft Flow is more like a UI based solutioning, so it has its own limitation. But if
Okay.
you want to do an extensive development, you have to go with Logic apps. Yeah.
So if you want, if you, so I understand like this. So Flow is like more for the citizen developers and which has a very easy UI, whereas Azure Logs apps are having a little coding you still have to do and it's a little complicated. So it can be used for complicated requirements as
Yeah, you're pretty, you're right. So basically the Microsoft Flow is like a SaaS service. Okay, you can think like that. You can
well.
directly use it.
Okay.
But Azure Logic Apps is like a PaaS service, right? So
Yeah.
you can pretty much achieve the same thing, but you have your own platform where you can build whatever you want, right?
Mhm.
So that's the main difference, I would say.
Yeah, so the other thing I have noticed is Microsoft is talking about Microsoft Flow everywhere. Even in workflow, when you just try to create a new workflow, they're talking about trying out Microsoft Flow, right? So, do you think is there any area where we can just still go for workflow, or can Flow do, okay, or can Microsoft Flow completely replace workflows in Dynamics 5? Yeah. What do you think?
I don't think so. Microsoft Flow is gonna it's a replacement for CRM workflows,
Mhm.
but it's definitely a replacement for SharePoint workflows. Okay,
Okay.
so so a lot of people, I mean, I would say a lot of people ask me whether Flow is going to replace Dynamics 365 workflows,
Mhm.
but I don't see so much of replacement, but more of the logical progression of where we wanted to start doing our process automation.
Okay.
So there are a lot of functionality in Flow which we cannot do it in Dynamics workflows. For
Mhm.
example, okay, Flow has a capability to query on the child records and
Okay.
perform actions on each records, right? Those kind of things which is not possible in the CRM workflows. So
Okay.
another example is like it has a recurring process in built in Flow. That is also not possible in CRM workflows, right?
Okay.
So yeah, there are a lot of things. So ideally, I would say try to achieve most of your business automation requirement using the Dynamics 365 workflows.
Mhm.
So whatever is not possible, then go with the Microsoft Flow.
Yeah.
That is a ideal
Other
scenario.
thing I have noticed is my workflow. If I talk about SharePoint workflow, it's specific to SharePoint. Same way in customer engagement, we have workflow, which is very specific to that. So flow is useful in situation where we have a multi-application environment where we can do the integration among multiple application. The other interesting point is about light integration. So the integration that you do with the help of tools or by writing code, which we can do very easily with the help of flow, but not about the complicated integration, but light integration flow.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, that's right.
Cool.
And Sandeep, I think I saw, I mean, this is my personal experience that, if I am on my, on my on my Power Apps and I'm using the flow, I see a lag of 1 second. But depending on, type of license you have, there is 1 to 3 seconds delay. Um, do you notice that? Have you seen that?
I did notice the same thing. Yeah, that I think
Yeah.
Microsoft is working on that to improve the performance. So it's some sort of delay is still happening. Yeah.
Yeah, and I also saw that you are only limited to like 750 flows in a month, depending on the license what you have. That you can only the query you can only query like 750 times with that flow.
So there is a
I'm
new
not sure about it.
license. Yeah, there is a new licensing is already in place. I think it's recently happened a month back or something.
Mm-hmm.
So in that there is a $15 per user plan per month, which is having unlimited flow. Uh, you know, you can do unlimited flows, and there is no limit on that, I think.
But now
Oh, okay.
again, the packages has changed very recently. If you look at the
So
packages for
yeah, whatever you are referring is the old licensing requirement. So that has been changed.
so now we have very different pricing available. Like for Power Apps, we have different like per app, per user, per month kind of license, and then also we have unlimited app rents kind of license for Power Apps. Same way for Flow, also we have different licenses now. So earlier we had such a cap. Yeah.
Sandeep, one question. This
Yeah.
flow, is it that we can only use with Dynamics 365? Can we use with other cloud-based applications?
Yeah, absolutely. You can use with other cloud-based application. So you have to make sure that is a part of the connector. So for example, you're working with Salesforce, right? So there
Hmm.
are connectors available. So you can talk to the Salesforce using the Microsoft Flow.
Okay, Salesforce using Microsoft
So
Flow.
around, yeah, there are 200 plus connectors available right now,
Mm-hmm.
which connect most of the, pretty much most of the, you know, application.
Okay, cool. Cool. And is there anything like limitation in the flow when it connects with cloud-based applications as well as you know some lag when you connect with on-premise application? Let's say we have some legacy application which is using SQL server database and that is on-premise. Then is there will be some performance issue we might need to think before designing any flow based application?
Um, at this moment, as I mentioned, it's only available for asynchronous workflows. So you can
Okay,
expect a delay at this moment. So if you wanted
okay,
to achieve, for example, in terms of if you talk about,
Um,
yeah,
Sandeep, I can answer that. Actually, it was in my last session. So
mm-hmm.
to Suresh, to answer that, so for
Yep,
example, in my last session, I did the same thing. So I created a
perfect.
flow and I said that if there is a file dropped in the SharePoint folder, which is a different application, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's a cloud-based application, SharePoint Online, and the flow basically
Wonderful.
keeps checking that if the file is dropped in the SharePoint or not, and it takes
Okay,
3-4 seconds to pick up that flow to run the action on that particular folder or on that particular file, and then it picks up and whatever the logic that I've written. So for example, I wrote a logic that use the flow, and whenever there is a PDF file dropped in the SharePoint, you extract the data from the PDF and you put it in the CDS, in the common data service. So that whole thing takes at least 6 seconds for me, as per my experience. to extract the data, to monitor the folder, to pick up the PDF and extract the data and put in CDS. And there is another flow, which basically I wrote that whenever there is a data inserted or created in the CDS, run another flow. So that takes another 3 to 4 seconds. And then on the same flow, I also said that go and connect to Twilio, which is a separate service offering from a different organization, and connect to that and basically send the text messages. So the whole process took me like 10 seconds.
Okay, so you said about the SharePoint folders, monitoring SharePoint
Correct.
folders,
Right.
and then Azure-based that the application. I didn't get that third one.
So the application was CDS. CDS means just like
CDS.
Dynamics, like model
Okay.
driven app. Yeah.
CDS, and third one was some separate tool.
Third one,
Trello.
Twilio.
Twilio
Twilio is basically a service that where you can call their API from the flow and basically pass them the template and the phone number so that they can send the text message.
Okay.
I mean, the Twilio can send text message. Yeah.
Got it.
Cool. So, and Sudip, you mentioned in the beginning about developing an application where Dynamics AA as well as Flow is involved. So, can you just talk a little bit about how you use Dynamics AI with Power Apps?
Dynamics AX, I have never used Dynamics AX. It's Dynamics.
He's talking about
the AI builder.
Yeah.
AI builder. Right. Got it. So in the flow, there is a premium service. I'm pretty sure it is a premium service now. So they have already. It is called the gallery, and from the gallery you can use the functions that is available. And for that AI builder, I had to use a very specific function that can extract the data, and it is called. I forgot the name of that function. It's something with P. I don't remember that name. So I have to use that function, and it is basically the part of the AI builder. And from that, it can extract the data. But I have to train that. Train the model so that it can extract the data, the 100% data, or the not even because these systems are so sensitive. I just need to extract the 100% data that is available. And I forgot the name of that function. I used it. It's something starts with P or something. I don't remember that now.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. Cool. So let's wind up here, and we will give time for the speakers just to ask questions. And I am sure that we would need more time for this kind of session because we have a lot to learn from everybody. In fact, I learned from all of you a lot of things. We would definitely need more time on more sections like this. But for now, we can just give time to the attendees and to just ask their questions. So anyone have any question, you can just open your mic and then ask the questions. And also you can just put the questions on the chat, so we'll take that up. Any question, anyone?
So, I have one question,
Sure.
Firoz. Just till the time others prepare. So as an icebreaker, Sudeep or Sandeep, when we connect to the on-premise based application, do you feel have you seen any kind of firewall issues or network restrictions? Is there something we need to take care of when we are using Microsoft Flow or CDS? Wherever we have these sort of integrations with on-premise, because what I feel is these applications will work like especially Power BI or other apps when we are talking about, they will work good with the cloud-based application, but I'm a little suspicious when it comes to on-premise based applications because like in the client network, let's say we have so much of restrictions. So how does that Microsoft see or like anything you would like to share on that perspective, especially in connecting to the on-premise based applications?
Yeah, Suresh, actually I haven't gotten to work on any of those kind of application yet. So whatever I worked till now is all cloud-based solution. So I'm sure there should be some challenges for we have to open the port or something to connect, right? So they have
Right,
to,
right, right.
at least they have to enable this particular application, right?
So maybe I can add to
And
that one. So when you
yeah,
talk
please
about
go.
Microsoft Flow, we have a separate connector. So we need to just configure a connector for on-premise system. For example, if I just need to connect Google Sheets with SQL Server on-premise, then I can do that kind of integration with the help of Microsoft Flow, where I just need to install and configure some gateways, on-premise gateway I need to configure. But to answer your questions, in terms of the performance or delay, it is just like any other on-premise application. Because if you have SQL installed on on-premise environment, then definitely there will be some restriction and firewall restriction, etc. in accessing that. So same applicable here also. It's not specific to
Okay.
cloud or on-premise, because we do. That's the reason we need to have specific configuration also we have to do for on-premise. So any other app which is on-premise where you're trying to access from the cloud application, that restriction applicable here as well. That is my experience with
Okay. Okay. Got it. Thanks, Firoz.
that. No problem.
Thanks, Sandeep.
Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, this is Ankush here. Am I audible?
Yeah, Ankush.
Yeah,
Yes,
great.
please.
Yeah. So I was just going through the Power App thing. Like I've just started with that. So I have read that there are two ways in which we can flow the data from Power App to the CRM application, right? Dynamics 365. Okay. One is using the CDS and other is using the Microsoft Flow.
Okay.
Okay. So any specific checkpoint which we have to see whether like which option we have to use, whether through the CDS or the Microsoft Flow, or we can use either of them.
I think I didn't get that. Can you please come again on the last part?
I'm saying there are two ways by which we can transfer the information from Power App to Microsoft CRM application, right? One is using the Microsoft Flow, other is using the CDS.
Okay.
Okay, so any specific criteria which we have to see, or we can use either of the ways from transferring data from Power App to CRM application.
Okay, it's not like
Suresh,
that.
do you want me to answer that?
Yeah, I can answer that. So it is not like that. So these are not two different ways. So CDS is kind of a layer in between any legacy application and then Microsoft Power Platform. So when you're trying to access data from Dynamics 365, for example, so what do you normally do? You just make a connection to the web service and where you access, right? That's how you access the data. So now after this web service or in between this web service, we have one more layer that is called CDS. So when you're using Flow, this flow will be connected to this CDS only. So that's where the CDS come into picture. So these are not two different ways. Even if you use Flow, you will be connecting to your legacy system, say Dynamics 5, CE or FNO, you will connect that through the CDS. So these are not two different ways. This is only one. These are only one way to do that. I think I answered that question. So anyone else need to add to that one?
I'm not sure that if I get the question. So what he's saying that, let's say he has the same data structure what is in Dynamics and also have in the CDS. So for example, he has the standard business entities like accounts, contacts, or something, and you have the same thing in the Dynamics. I think when you update the data, you don't have to use the flow because the data will be updated directly to that CDS also. But from my last presentation, so I have an entity which is only available in the CDS, and that is not available in Dynamics. Then I have to basically, if I have to transfer the data from this entity to another entity in the Dynamics, I have to use the flow because that entity is not available in the CDS. In the Dynamics.
What he was asking basically is like, are these two different ways, and if there are two different ways of accessing directly from CDS or through Flow, so what is the difference? That's what you're saying. So when you are accessing data through Flow, it is accessing through CDS only. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, thanks, Jim.
And there is one other question from Malini. I'll just read that out. You recommended Dynamics 5 workflow more than flow for the scenarios which is possible with Dynamics 5. Can you provide some points why it is so? I mean, other than async thing, is there any other points because flow is not recommended? So I'll just, summarize that. So is there any other scenario where flow shouldn't be recommended? Sandeep, you want to take that question?
Sorry. Can you repeat the
Yeah,
question?
the question is like this. So, I mean, is there any scenario where a flow shouldn't be recommended other than whatever you have explained?
Shouldn't be recommended. Okay. So I can talk about what are the scenario we can use flow. Then ideally I would say all the scenarios, try to achieve all the business automation process, all the things you try to achieve through Microsoft Dynamics workflows.
Mhm.
And the other things which are like, for example, if you wanted to do something like retrieving an exchange rate or moving a Dynamics 365 attachment to an online storage, or something like creating a custom folder structure in SharePoint, these kind of things are not achievable through Microsoft Dynamics 365 workflows, right? These are all outside system, right? So whenever we talk about any other system integration, then we have to go with the flow. Other things, anything related to the Dynamics context, I would say go with Dynamics workflows. The another good part is like a dynamic workflows is packaged as a part of the solution, right? Then that is a good thing, and it support all the CRM actions and data types. So it's all up to you. I mean, I would say try to achieve everything through workflows, Dynamics workflows, whichever is uh, required some sort of connection to other systems. You can use Microsoft Flow. Does that answer the question?
There's a question on the chat. I think it answers the question. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, hi Firoz, Shubhanshu this side.
Hi.
Yeah, so I have a question that how like security is implemented in like Microsoft Flows and Logic apps. Is it similar to that our dynamic CRM security rules, like we assign to users and forms, all those kind of things, or it is handled some other way?
Mhm. Yeah. So, Sandeep, again, will you be able to answer that question? It's about the security in Azure Logic Apps.
So I don't have too much exposure on that area, but I think Dynamics, the security model is not replicated in any of these things. It's based on what account you configured, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about that. I mean,
So when you talk about Microsoft Flow, it has a security model which is very similar to that of Flow, and Flow is basically built on top of Azure Logic App. So I don't have much exposure to the Logic App side, but as far as Flow is concerned, it is following a similar security structure as that of Dynamics.
Okay, I have one more additional question.
Yeah.
Along with this CDS and all the connectors, 200 plus connectors available for various part of this power platform,
Mhm.
uh, are is Microsoft trying to replace the custom middleware servers where various line of applications used to be integrated with the help of rather a lot of endpoints at a single server? So is it trying to replace that thing with that middleware?
um,
I would like to add one point, Sandeep. That
okay, go ahead.
then again, I won't say replace, but as you see, the technology keeps on changing. Now it is more cloud-based. So now, if you want to, I mean, these are like these applications or the layers which Microsoft is building, not to replace anything, but they are like, uh, yeah, they are like supporting more of cloud-based applications. Yes, Sandeep.
Yeah, I think you answered the question, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for.
Cool. Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, Firoz, this is Kiran.
I can.
So my question is about the the connectors that are there in the Power Platform, right? So ideally, if I see the connector, it's most of an integration part where you have no code or zero code or less code, and it's just an out-of-box configuration stuff. Any citizen platform developer can do it, right? So is the connector given by Microsoft as such, as part of the Power Platform, or is it some sort of an app which is an integral web API kind of stuff for a REST service, which the other third party, let's example Salesforce. Now, if I want to use a Salesforce connector, now the Salesforce company as an organization has to push that service into the cloud, and then that is available to the Microsoft platform model, or is it built by the Microsoft as such? All the 200 connectors also.
So I can say it's not built by Microsoft altogether.
Okay.
It's provided by different companies. So
Okay.
you can see who when you log into the templates or in any other connectors. You can see that it's coming from different companies.
Yeah. Okay.
So then you have to, if a lot of premium connectors are there, so you have to pay for the service.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions? We will take two more questions and then we'll wind up the session. Two more questions. Any questions from audience?